Hey guys, what's up? This is Goremizer, and I'm going to be talking to you today in this episode of Smite Strats about the support role, which is a trip back to the duo lane, which we covered in episode 3 of this series. Now, as you remember, the duo lane, which is also the long lane in the game, consists of a hunter, or an ADC as it should be called, and a support. The ADC role normally filled with a hunter. You can go ahead and go back to Smite Strats episode 3, that will cover that. What I'm going to be covering today is the support role, which is a separate playstyle from every role in the game. It is kind of like a second jungler, depending on who's playing it, so I'm going to have to go in a little more detail here, which is why it was saved for the later episodes. Now, first things first, contrary to popular belief, the support role is probably harder than all of the roles I've covered up to this point. It is definitely game-by-game basis on whether or not it's harder, but overall it is a hard role because there's a lot expected from you when you're the support player. You don't get to just sit back and farm. You don't typically have to worry about your deaths, but you do have to worry about the deaths of your teammates because that all gets typically pushed onto you. But first I'm going to go ahead and start. What does the support do in the beginning? If you're on the blue side, you and your ADC are going to grab the blue buff and then come to lane and start farming. If you're on the red side, there are two things I've seen. I'm still not entirely sure which one is the most efficient. I'm pretty sure the second version I'm going to be covering, and I'll tell you which one it is the most efficient, but there's one version where you, the mid, and the ADC are grabbing mid camps, and then you just go back, you grab blue together, and then you go to lane. However, the more popular one, the ADC and the mid are grabbing mid camps. You start up the blue buff here. You wait to kill, to drop it until the ADC gets there. Typically you will have a hog, Hand of the Gods, to help you clear that, and you will need some multi-potions or some health potions to make sure you stay alive. The ADC will come, help you finish it off, you'll get the blue buff, and you'll come to lane. So, if you have done this, the first few minutes are going to be the same as it is with the ADC, as I explained. You're going to be sitting in lane, trying to clear the wave first to push up harder, and to overall get more gold, as well as to look for kills on the other ADC or the other support, because early game kills help get gold. After the first few minutes of early game, you'll notice in 3 minutes you'll be expected to rotate over to help grab mid camps. Now the other supports will also be coming up, and so you'll need to be careful, because if both supports are there, it's typically going to be a fight. So every 3 minutes or so, you'll be definitely doing this. One of the other things, and this is a very important thing to learn as a support, it is your job to ward. The ADC role does not ward typically. They can, and it is encouraged for everybody to ward. I definitely support everyone warding. However, I don't expect, if I'm playing support, I do not expect the ADC to ward. When you do ward, you want to ward right up here, if you're blue side. Opposite if you're on red side, obviously. Now this portion of this jungle will catch when they go to the blue buff. It will catch any rotations over this way, and it will overall help. And if their jungler comes, it covers so many options, just that one ward. Now, depending on how well you're doing, if you are pushed up, so let's say your lane is winning and you're standing up here, then you only need the one ward. However, if your lane is losing and you're back here or farther back, and let's say you've been ganked by the jungler a lot through here, you want to ward probably right here, because that will help catch anybody rotating from mid over. This will also catch people rotating from mid, but not quite as well depending on how they do, because they could do it like that as well. And so this ward right here typically covers your options. Sometimes you might need a ward here. That's this one, defensive ward. This one, necessary ward. Other warding that you will have to cover as the support is the Gold Fury. And so here's the Gold Fury. If you are on the blue side of the map, you're going to want to place the ward closer to their side, because when you attack the Gold Fury, you pull it this way. The reason you pull the Gold Fury towards your base is because that gives you a better place to run from. But let's say your ward's here, and you catch a ward right there. If it's a sentry ward, you can kill it. Normally you want to place a sentry ward on the Gold Fury because that will give you vision of any wards that they put in the area. It's important to keep the Gold Fury warded because of the amount of gold it drops. It's 1500 gold for all of the players. A split between the players. Now, that's a pretty hefty amount of gold. And it is definitely, this is an area big on team fights. You will definitely be fighting over the Gold Fury. One team can start it and lure you over and then try to pick you off. So it's also used as a trap. Now, usually you'll want a Hand of the God, or a Wrath of the Gods is what it's called, a Hog 3 as it's commonly referred to help secure the Gold Fury. And you will be targeted. A support role is definitely targeted when it comes to getting the Gold Fury because they have the secure for it. Other things that you need to ward late game. This is a late game. This one you start warding Gold Fury probably around 5 minutes, maybe a little later. Usually doesn't get taken very early, but it's entirely possible for people to try and go for an early Gold Fury. However, starting at 10 minutes, not quite, but maybe 15 minutes in, you're going to want to start warding Fire Giant. The Fire Giant buff, and this is where the support's really big because they secure both of these. Their job is to make sure that these two buffs go to their team. And also to help get their team that buff, they tank the camps, and they also will try to hold off the other people, depending. The Fire Giant buff is definitely one that the support player, if you get killed late game, typically it's a free Fire Giant. If you're down, they can go, and usually it's uncontested for them. They don't have, like, they might lose somebody in a fight, a team fight, a 4v5, but if their support's alive, their support can take it from you. So it's definitely something that you need to ward. There's normally a ward in the middle. You'll want to ward up here, and probably, depending on how defensive you want to be, I'd have wards here and here. You don't have to place all of those. This one is yours. This one doesn't have to be, this one doesn't have to be, and this one doesn't have to be. However, I do recommend warding as much as you can to get as much vision as you can around the Fire Giant. So these two, definitely big fights late game for the support role. These, early game potential for fights as the support role. And one of the other things is you'll spend a lot of time in this lane, and depending on how far you travel, over in this lane. The thing about this is that the support wanders. Now, it's not quite like a jungle roam, because the jungler typically goes and does the camps. The support is strictly going lane to lane. And so if you find that as the support, you are falling behind on gold compared to the rest of your team, you're a lower level than the rest of your team, that's alright. That is usual. You are supposed to be letting other people get the gold because your goal is to be the one who can absorb the damage, who can help fight in the team fights, but not take any kills. Your goal is to assist everyone else as much as you can. It is a more challenging role than people like to think, because a lot of people think it's a dumb, sit back, help your ADC role. It's definitely more than that, and I do recommend watching some of these big support players play some of the role, because they will spend a lot of time assisting their teammates compared to the other roles, which are just trying to get more gold while they can. Other than that, as a support player, just remember, be careful. Make sure you don't die late game. Try to assist. Make sure your team doesn't die as well. But for the most part, be careful, play happy. Talk to you guys in the next episode of Smite Strats.